Hello, everyone. My name is Heidi Ellsworth, and I'm with Metal Coffee Shop, and we are here today for Metal Talk. Thank you so much for being on today. I am so excited about this conversation. We are really looking at how can we bring more people to metal, right? We want everyone to be involved in that. And so a big part of that is when we talk about sheet metal shops. So we've brought in the experts from Cidan to talk about that. So before I go into introductions, I do want to remind everybody that this is being recorded and that we will be sharing this on demand and within the next 24 hours. So we also are going to open up the chat. So please come into the chat, introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, if you already have a sheet metal shop or not, just kind of give us some background and some history. We love to have questions throughout the entire hour that we're going to have here with Metal Talk. So let's get started. I am very happy to introduce Chandler Barden with Cidan Machinery as our guest today to talk about how to start a sheet metal shop. Chandler, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Yeah, looking forward to talking about how to start a sheet metal shop and trying to pass along a little knowledge that I've developed over the last decade or so working in the industry.
I know. I'm actually really looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to learning a lot. Before we get started, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your career and also about Cidan.
Sure. So yeah, as the slide says here, I started with Cidan Machinery in 2012. I started as as individual sales, and then I went to sales manager as we grew the company. Back then, we were a much smaller company than we are now. So yeah, I worked about 8 years directly in sales, and then in 2020, I moved over to the president role, and I'm helping our team scale the company, grow, make sure we're taking care of our customers, make sure we're developing what the market needs, and yeah, moving in the right direction. So for those of you who don't know who Cidan Machinery is, we are a machine manufacturer whose headquarters is in Sweden. Our North American headquarters is in Peachtree City, Georgia. And we manufacture sheet metal cutting and forming machines primarily for the architectural market. We also are in the industrial precision market, but the bulk of what we do volume-wise is definitely the architectural market. So that can go into high-end architectural buildings with custom wall panels. That can go into ag buildings and pole barns. For pole barns. It can also go into roofers, like we're addressing here. So everybody from a mom and pop's, sheet metal roofing shop to large publicly traded corporations. We pride ourselves for the architectural market on being the one-stop partner. We can completely outfit your shop and almost all of the machinery that is needed and software that is needed for the architectural fabrication industry.
Wow, perfect. Well, let's get on. Let's start talking about this. And I do want to remind everyone the chat is open. We also have our Q&A. So if you have questions, I'm going to try to address some of those as we go through this hour instead of holding them all the way till the end. So feel free to ask questions as we go. And I love the fact that we're getting some great folks already messaging us in the chat. And I do want to just say, Chandler, we have Christine Scott on here who said she opened a shop 12 months ago in the DFW area. I'll take any nuggets of wisdom you've got. So nice. We're on. Okay, here we go. Okay, so first off, let's talk about what is a sheet metal shop? So for many of you out there, you're probably going, are you kidding? We know what a sheet metal shop is, but maybe everyone doesn't. So we wanted to talk a little bit, just kind of lay some foundation. So Chandler, what is a sheet metal shop?
So a sheet metal shop in the context of what we're going to be referring to most of today is is going to be an architectural sheet metal shop or a fabrication shop that is cutting and forming architectural parts. So that can be cosmetic as well as waterproofing, parts. So edge trim, panels, also like aesthetic architectural panels for cladding on buildings. There is a variety of different types of sheet metal shops, or within the architectural market. There's companies out there like A. Zahner or MetalTalk USA who specialize in just making very high-end architectural shops, architectural parts. Those can go on, museums and new buildings at universities, skyscrapers, and all different types of buildings. Today we're primarily going to talk about starting a shop. Most people are going to go after, hey, I would like to supply the form trim and the form panels for the local roofing market around my area, and more a regional focus there. So we're going to talk about the basics of what to focus on when you're looking at equipment, what to focus on when you're looking. I mean, we can get into what to think about when looking at a facility, a location, and then also, the financial side, the employee side, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And really, we're talking about all types of metal, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yes. But, primarily what these type shops are going to be using or forming is going to be mild steel, pre-painted mild steel. Primarily in the roofing market, when you take out the agriculture and the pole barn side, you're going to be looking at, Kynar coated material, which Kynar is just it's a type of coating. It's fluoropolymer resin coating, and that's used to protect the actual metal from the elements outside when it's on the exterior of a building. Now, of course, a lot of shops, they do copper. You'll get the copper orders, and the copper is high-end work that has good margin, so people want to be able to do that as well. And one of the slide here, we talk about shops in the past. One of the real big selling points or attractions for shops in the past was a relationship. Hey, I know Chandler up the road. He can make all this different types of trim that I need, and I know he's my go-to guy for that. That's still around, and that's why a lot of people do different types of metal, including that copper, is because they want to be able to supply their customer base with whatever they need. Today's shops, we get into a faster pace of business today. I mean, we all experience that. Everybody expects everything yesterday. So the turnaround time is key for a lot of the newer shops today. So they're pushing for ways to improve that, and that can be through software, or that can be through their ease of ordering, or the efficiency of their operation. The older shops, as they try to bite off more, they become a little more inefficient. They don't bring in lean manufacturing principles into their shop, and their turnaround time gets drawn out, and that kind of pushes away some customers.
Yeah. And that's what we're going to kind of talk. We're going to go into the type of equipment that you need, the type of thinking about that. But I love that. And we're hearing this in the chat too, is that it is, you can't overcommit, because you got to make sure you're delivering. The material shortages and deliveries have been off the charts this whole last year. So something we've all had to fight.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I mean, all deliveries have been from equipment side, or, from the fabrication side of, just trim. It's been tough. And, I think that's a great point. But controlling that the best we can is I think that's the key to success. I've been into shops all around the US, and the guys who do the best are the ones who are really nailing down the turnaround time on the trim to their customers.
Yeah.
And they're communicating that to their customers and, giving them a realistic expectation.
Okay. So let's kind of go through this and talk about, I mean, we have some folks on here who are actually looking to start sheet metal shops, some people who already have them but are trying to grow them. But really, when you look at this, Chandler, what is kind of, when do you know when your company is at the right stage to open up a sheet metal shop?
Well, I think that largely depends on the work you're currently doing. But let me back up real quick. What we see a lot is we're getting ready to go to the IRE, the International Roofing Expo. We see a lot of companies who, hey, their owners say, hey, I have a roofing company. We've gotten into metal about, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years ago. And we're looking to start forming our own metal. One of the avenues of starting a sheet metal shop is starting a DBA, a doing business as, or starting another company, under a different name. And what they're trying to do is they're going to sell their roofing company the metal that they're going to fabricate, and then they're also going to try to attract in other roofers from the area. That's probably the most common way that we see people starting a roofing sheet metal shop. The other way is, hey, somebody's been working in a sheet metal shop for a while and they want to branch off on their own and get things going on their own because they think they can have a competitive advantage in some way. So, when you look at the size, the size of a sheet metal shop, you really don't need that many employees. You only need, I would say, about 3 to 5 employees when you start. I mean, really on the lower end, 3. And I wouldn't say any more. I'm a believer of starting lean. Learn your margin, what it takes to earn your customers, and then start to fill out your organizational structure from there. But starting lean to me is key.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And knowing I like what you said earlier too, really knowing that focus. Like, are you selling to your own roofing company? Are you doing your own? Where do you find those customers? Because that really does make a difference in how you're starting and how you're taking on.
Yeah. And most successful shops, like I said earlier, a lot of them focus on turnaround time, but a lot of them also, they're within this industry, they're not coming in as an outsider typically. They typically have some type of connection, whether it's a business partner or whether it's them individually, who are going to come in and they know the market, right? So if you're a roofer and if you want to, take a little bit more of a gamble and go out and start on your own, you've already probably bought material from what is going to be your competitors. So, what are your pain points? What are some things that you've experienced by them that, you can capitalize on?
Yeah. I love that. We had a comment in here on the metrics of the shop, including the workflow and how you set up your shop makes such a difference in that turnaround and in the delivery, like you were talking about.
Completely. And it comes down to not only the workflow, but storage. So, it would be amazing how many shops you go into and you see the improper storage of coil, the improper storage of flat stock. And it's not just the material is going to get damaged. It's also the amount of time it takes. You say, hey, we keep tight books and we have, whatever it is, 100 sheets of 4x10, forest green out there. We know we do. But to find it takes 2 hours. That's not efficient. Or to uncover it takes 2 hours. It's not efficient. And that's where I mean clean, organized, a lean manufacturing process.
Yeah. That makes total sense. So as you're looking at that, let's just talk about the equipment. In fact, we have a number of people in the chat who are saying that they have bought Cidan equipment. So that's cool. But let's talk about what are some of the required equipment when you're starting your shop? What should people be thinking about?
Well, first off, the people who've purchased the Cidan equipment, thank you. We really appreciate your business. So the required equipment is going to be, obviously well, not obviously, I don't know how many new people we have on here, but a folder, which is going to be what's forming the equipment, or sorry, forming the material, right? So it used to be, companies would buy hand brakes, which are manual brakes, or even small or larger roofers will have manual hand brakes in their shop. And the operators are scribing lines on each side and then clamping the material and then manually bending it up. So a folder, what we're referring to a folder here, is going to be a CNC folder. So it's going to be computerized, and you're going to more draw out the part, and the back gauge is going to move to a set point based on what you drew, and it's going to form the part faster, more efficiently for you. Again, help for that throughput for a quick turnaround. So the folder is for forming the edge trim. It's not for forming the panels. The second is the shear. So you're going to buy flat stock. Flat stock is going to come in 4x10. Flat stock is just a flat sheet of metal that you can buy from various suppliers like Drexel or CMG or somebody like that. And they're going to, the sheets are going to come in, and you're going to have to put it into a machine, and it's just going to shear it for you. So it's going to cut it to a width. And then that way, if you're making a coping, the coping is the correct width for when you put it in the folding machine. And then the final and probably, the final piece of machinery that would probably be needed, sometimes not, but probably would be needed, is a roll former. So these are standing seam machine roll formers. These are for the snap lock profiles, or the mechanical lock profiles, or exposed fastener profiles. They're usually portable. I recommend portable machines. That can be a unique selling point for you compared to your competition locally. But they're going to be what forms the panels for the roofs. And then finally, your hand tools. Your hand tools are pretty basic. I think most roofers have your hand tools already set up. But one thing I want to point out here is when you look at your roll formers, you really look at popular in your industry. And I'm going to bring this back to your hand tools in just a minute. The roll former needs to be what's popular within your niche of the industry, in your region. In different regions and in different niches of the industry, you're going to see different requirements for the panels that the panel profiles that you can buy on, say, your NewTek machine. NewTek Machinery is a manufacturer of standing seam machines. They actually are who we partner with to provide standing seam machines. They make really quality machines that are portable, can go on job sites, and they have exchangeable cassettes. Most portable roll formers will have changeable cassettes, because you're going to have, say, a customer who wants a roll former with 1-inch mechanical lock, and then you're going to have another one that is going to want snap lock. And those are two different files that take two different cassettes. And the cassettes allow you to enter in each market at a much more affordable price point. Because you also have to think that, hey, a roll former is going to make the panel on the roof, right? Mm-hmm. So if I'm going to roll a roof for a local school, it's probably going to be a different profile than if I go to, a residential accent roof, for, this new neighborhood that's popping up down the road.
And I've been hearing so much about the regionality of the profiles, mm-hmm. and in the type of metal that is popular in that area. And it seems mm-hmm. to go, so really, and we're going to get to this, I know, in just a minute, but knowing your customers and then coming back and applying that to, or knowing your market and applying that to the type of machinery that you're buying, what's going to make sense, because you don't want to buy or have the wrong things and then find out that you don't have a product that is people want.
Right, right. And I mean, I think that goes back to why there's so many. You're thinking about it, the largest expense, or some of the largest expenses on going to opening a sheet metal shop, can be the equipment and then the material, right? But if you know those two, the entry point isn't the entry cost to get into to start up a company isn't absurd. It's an investment for sure, but if you know the market, because you've been already installing these metal roofs and everything, you can be successful pretty quickly.
Yeah. So as we're looking at that, I think, we talk about the equipment and everything, but when you're starting up a sheet metal shop, there, as with everything in roofing and construction overall, safety is such a huge consideration. But there is, there's a lot of things that can go wrong in a sheet metal shop if things aren't done properly, the guards and everything. So let's just talk about that, of making sure everybody's aware of the safety sides of setting up a sheet metal shop.
So our equipment is, just to be open too, as far as all the equipment that's sold in the US, I believe, is also, meets the OSHA standards of safety. That's going to be a requirement. And, we periodically are doing different risk assessments on our machines to make sure that we meet all the standards and everything, and we're up to date. But reviewing those OSHA standards with the employees, I think, is key. When we install the equipment afterwards, making sure that everybody's aware of the precautions they should be taking. Also, the equipment, as we say here, the equipment safety training. When we sell pieces of machinery, we come out to install it. And when we come out to install it, we train on it. And we also go through the safe operation of the equipment. We have a set program that we go through to make sure that all the operators that we train are up to the same level of safety training on the piece of equipment. This gets, from what I've seen on safety considerations through the years working Cidan, accidents usually happen years after the machine is installed, because you're playing a game of telephone through the safety training on the equipment, right? Jim or Chandler trains Jim trains Joe, Joe trains Heidi, and next thing you know, an accident happens. And, that's a big risk. So, I believe all the manufacturers, and I'm not going to just put in a tag for Cidan, all the manufacturers should offer follow-up training at a later point in time. And safety should be number one on that. And I would recommend that if you do find yourself 4 or 5 years down the road, hey, look, I have a fresh new blood in here and I want to make sure everybody's safe, bring your OEM in and have them do a course for you guys. You're checking that box of doing your due diligence as an employer to make sure that your team is safe.
One of the things I'm thinking about, Chandler, as we're talking about this, and it probably should have been a bullet point, but I just am thinking about it, is that there is a lot of used equipment out there. We see it on our classified ads on Metal Coffee Shop and Roofers Coffee Shop. And so as you're bringing in, if someone were to bring in older machinery, that is probably when it becomes very crucial to be asking all the right questions about, does it meet all the OSHA standards? Is it the right, where did it come from? Talk a little bit about that.
So yeah, when you look at folding machines and shear machines, the machines have been around since the 80s. The safety standards have been pretty well established. I don't think many people are going to buy machines, from the 80s at this point. So, you're usually looking, mid 2000s at used equipment, and the safety standards then are pretty well established and relatively the same now. I will say that when you when you look at a used piece of equipment, to add different safety features, modern safety features onto it can be challenging, right? So OSHA requires has their standard that they require. Then we can also put on different, light scanners or floor scanners, or, we can kind of just load the machine out with as much safety gear as you want. At some point in time, there's going to be a cutoff of old used equipment and the compatibility with newer safety equipment. Now, that doesn't always mean, or that doesn't mean there's not a solution out there. There definitely can be a solution out there, but just keep that in mind. If you're going to want to add aftermarket safety equipment to it, there could be a compatibility constraint there.
It's interesting. Okay, so let's talk about, and you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I think it's good to go back to, there's, with the type of products that we're talking about today on the architectural side, let's talk through, roofing, siding, accessories. What are some of the things that they should be on new sheet metal shops or current ones that are trying to expand? What kind of products should they really be focusing on?
Well, I mean, I want to be able to be specific and give some value added to everybody on here, but I will say it also depends on your market, right? Because, as I said before, with roofing, we'll start with roofing as the first bullet point. There's a variety of different profiles that are out there. If you go to NewTek's website, you can go to their profiles, you're going to see all the different ones on there. I mean, even to the point where there's different striations, which are minor ribs on the panels. But the major ribs, or the mechanical points at which the panels are connecting together, I mean, you have snap lock, mechanical lock, exposed fasteners, and then also the rib height. You have different heights: 1 inch, 1.5 inches, 2 inch. And then you have a variety of different panels from, that are completely different from each other, like standing seam versus 5V or 5V panel. So when you're looking at these different metal roof panels, it's important to say, okay, what's the easiest entry point if you're startup? What's the easiest entry point for me, and what I'm going to sell the most volume at, or what am I going to be able to differentiate myself from my competitors with? Maybe your competitor doesn't have a certain profile, and it's becoming more popular with a builder in your local area. And you can get that profile pretty easy. Now, when you look at the folder and shear component of the machinery, your edge trim or those two machines can support your edge trim, which can go or will go with any of those type of roofing profiles. So it's not as critical there to say, hey, this piece of equipment is going to make or break me. Now your edge trim typically, or generally speaking, I'll say your edge trim and your accessories are where you're going to make a lot of your money, right? That's where a lot of your gross margin is. It's not always in your panels, right? Panel machines are much less expensive than the folder and the shear. And, somebody can buy it and roll out their own panels and then eventually buy a folder shear. Well, your edge trim and your accessories are where you can make some of that higher margin.
Wow. And you can kind of start there, right? With your accessories and trim, start there and then move on.
Yes, you can. But it depends on the market. Like, I mean, okay, if you're going to say you have a company who does a lot of flat roofing, a lot of TPO stuff, you guys are going to do a lot of parapet walls and a lot of coping, right? You're going to make coping all day long. Well, you don't really need a standing seam machine for that. Right. But, again, if you open a company as a DBA or another company, and you're trying to get other roofers to come to that company for metal, then that's an easy way to, you buy a roofing machine and a panel machine, and then you start forming panels for them.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
so you certainly can start with just a folder shear if you'd like. Yeah.
So you know what? I have so many questions, Chandler. So you always got to watch out, because I'm like,
That's
oh,
fine.
this is so interesting. So the one thing I'm hearing a lot about from a lot of different contractors too is the increase in metal siding. And then a lot more you're seeing, even on homes with different profiles, maybe some different textures, wood grain. So what about on the siding part of it? Is it that different from everything else? And is it somewhere you should start, or, what are your thoughts on that?
Siding can be difficult, because siding, the machine you see on the left-hand side, this is an automated machine, but you see the panels down there on that pallet at the bottom of the picture. Those can be siding panels. Those are custom corrugated panels for, a building. So think about the roll former. We talk about cassettes for the roll former. A roll former is going to make whatever cassette you have in there, that profile and that profile only. You change it to cassette B, it's going to make that profile, that B profile, and that B profile only, right? So that machine you see over there, with siding, a lot of people want different styles of corrugation. So that machine you see over there is what we call a double folder, and it's going to make custom corrugated panels. So that is where you can get, that's going to be for larger shops, people who are established. I mean, that machine's a much higher level investment than a typical folder shear. And that's where you really can expand your business. Now you see a lot of companies kind of mature through the different stages. Okay, I open a sheet metal shop that's just doing standing seam and edged metal, right? Okay, I've grown that. I have a pretty much full production. I'm going to buy one of these now, double folder, Tallman double folder. And then we're going to expand into custom wall panels. And that's kind of the progression, right? They're getting into the higher end architectural side, right? It can do edge trim all day, but it can also expand what the offering can be from the customer, or from you to your customer. Now,
go ahead.
NewTek does make some different wall panel machines, like a flush wall panel machine. And that can be used as siding. You see that pretty frequent, especially in these, like barn dominiums and stuff like that that people are getting into. So there is some potential there as well for roll formers.
So we had a question here. It says, this is from Christine Scott again. She says, we have so many calls for our panel. We never thought to stock. What are your thoughts on that?
So our panel is a roll form panel. You're never going to make it on a machine like that to the left. You'll hear R panel or PVR panel. It has the major rib is taller than an ag panel. And it's fairly common in different parts of the country. And like Texas is one area that it's fairly common in. The R panel, it's going to expand your business. That's the difficult part about buying a panel machine. The margins aren't really high for, especially like the ag panel, R panel market, that wide coverage roll form panel. But again, it helps you sell the edge trim. It helps you sell the accessories. Now, if we circle back to the beginning of the conversation, I talked about metal roofing and going after roofers, right? And when I said I'm going to shy away from the metal pole barns and the ag buildings, right? So when we look at, and I talked about the Kynar, right? The coating on the material. When you go to when you go to R panel, typically it's going to be made from a different material type. It's actually going to be made from a thinner material, 28 gauge, something like that. It's going to be made out of a lot of times grade 80 material. It's harder, and it's a cost thing, right? I mean, these metal buildings, people want to throw up and they want them cheap, right? They're keeping their tractor dry when they're not using it, or they're, I know they're keeping their boat dry, whatever it is. There's a lot of different reasons to use the R panel. But my point is that when you look at expanding into that market, you need to not only look at the equipment cost, but look at the material cost, right? It could make perfect sense for you. But if you're in the roofing market and you're buying 24 gauge Kynar coated material, you call up your supplier, you say, hey, I want to run R panel. Your cost to run that R panel is going to be much higher if you run that Kynar through it than if you run the cheaper material, the grade 80 and everything. And you're going to price yourself really outside of your competition, right? Because your competitor is going to be offering the cheaper material. So it's different application. It's a lot of the same equipment, and it's a lot of the same, general industry umbrella, but it's a different investment point for you as a manufacturer or fabricator.
Fabricator. Wow. Well, okay. Along that, from Jerry, thank you. Any advice for making the accessories like gutter end caps and downspout dropouts? He's thinking about a plasma cutter.
Yeah, so that's a great question. When you look at plasma cutters, you're going to be hot. It's going to take a torch and it's going to be burning through that metal. So you got to think about the edge of the metal and how you're going to burn your paint, right? And the coater, whoever you're coating your material or supplying your material, might be the same company, is probably going to say, nope, that warranty is no good if you burn that with a plasma cutter. So a lot of people punch it. Water jet, I see the question there. Water jet uses abrasive. It has little bits of sand in there, so it could still damage it, right? You won't be able to see it with your eye, but microscopically it'll pull back that paint, and I would defer to them for that. The way to do it, and I know that this won't ruin a warranty, and it's the same with ES1, is punching, right? So you can get like a turret punch, or turret is a general term. It has a big change in the big turret action, but it's a turret punch, and you can use that for notching corners, for punching oblong holes for ES1 certification, stuff like that.
Great questions, everyone. Keep them coming. This is awesome. Okay, so we talked a lot about this a little bit in little pieces here, but let's talk about the overall. If someone is starting a sheet metal shop, or like some of the folks that are on here already have one, which I think this is just as important if you're a year into it or 2 years, is creating a business plan. And so, Chandler, talk a little bit about creating that business plan for a sheet metal shop or for the growth of a sheet metal shop.
Yeah. So I think, okay, my background, I studied finance in college. I love the growth and scale cycles of business. It really gives me energy and everything. And I think that's a huge opportunity for architectural sheet metal shops in the market, right? You see some roll-ups already in the industry with larger companies where, the big corporations are going and they're buying up the regional roll formers and stuff like that. It's going to continue to happen. And it's, I think if you run a well-run business with a good 5-10 year business plan, you really can do well. If that's what your end goal is, to sell it, or, heck, give it to your kid or whatever it is. But I think a business plan is definitely key to keep you in line and keep you moving in the right direction. And the reason I say that is also my experience within the industry. Like I said, 8 years I was traveling around, going to a lot of different shops. You see them run very inefficiently. And that is through, both the accounting side, and how they're doing their price markups over time, right? Especially, we talk about supply chain and, inflation. You hear it all over the news. Over the last couple of years, I've talked to handfuls of customers about how they're accounting for the increase in pricing, and it's quite amazing sometimes the lack of detail that's in there. And that's your cost. That's your cost of goods sold is that and labor, right? And so making sure you're well put together in your P&L is key. But having a clear plan of action, having your non-negotiable kind of behaviors that you're expecting, clean shop, lean manufacturing, clean books, all that I think is really good there. As far as customers go, I'll go back to what I said earlier. A lot of people are coming from the industry. Just call different customers and see what their lead times are. Or sorry, call different fabricators, see what their lead times are. See what links they have. There was a question about downspouts. Well, the length of trim is also can be a differentiator. A lot of shops have 10-foot machines. That could be very suitable for a lot of customers out there. But if you can make, a bunch of commercial buildings are going up, or commercial mixed-use buildings, warehouses are going up around. Well, you can, and they're going to need 6 or larger gutters, right? Box gutters. The longer you make them, the better you are. The less the installer has to do to put those up. If there's a lot of roofers on this call, they're going to know that. There all are different regulations which you need to check as well, given your area. But doing that due diligence will set you up for success in the long term.
Yeah, I mean, I would think in this, when you look at the goals of the products that you're going to do, the ones that fit your customers, that your regionality we've already talked about, and knowing your competition. Like if there's just huge amounts of fabricators in your area, you may want to look at doing things a little bit different. How can you differentiate yourself? I think that's always so important, and that should all go into a business plan and a marketing plan to help before you ever really step out, because everything. But a lot of people are like, okay, they got their business plan, they know what they want to do, but financing, how do you finance that shop?
Can we go back real quick?
One
more point here.
Yeah.
So another point I want to bring up is we talk about the entry point into this market when we're looking at and people coming from the roofing market. The other way around that is, hey, at one point in time, if you are that person who I'm referring to, at one point in time, you were also the roofer who hadn't installed metal roofs, right? You did a lot of TPO, you did a lot of asphalt shingle roofs, and you said, oh, I'm going to try this metal. There's good margins over here. Well, one differentiator from your competition can be being that consultative partner for those new companies, right? So it is a different animal, and the guys who are going to do metal roofs right, they need help in learning how to install the metal roof right, and then also why does a W Valley have open hems on the end rather than closed hems? You can educate them on that and really benefit them and get them going, and they're always going to remember that, of course. So that consultative partner approach to your customers, I think, is also key into getting going. Because let's face it, if we take, well, I should separate out roofing in general, but in the sheet metal side of roofing, it's a lot of old school companies, right? It's not a lot of newer progressive type companies who are coming in. And I think, eventually that has to change. The market share of metal roofing is increasing throughout North America. So, the money's there, people will figure that out and they'll come up. Well, be there to help them, and they're going to, and keep buying from you.
I think that's brilliant. I'm so glad you said, let's go back and talk about that, because one of the things we're seeing, and we've had actually a couple Metal Talks and some of our Metal Casts podcast on this, is really talking about the need for training for metal roofing. And if you are a roofing contractor, you think about opening a sheet metal shop, to put yourself in the position of being that consultant of not only providing the metal fabrication, but also of training that, yeah, Chandler, that's a huge differentiator and should be right up there in their marketing materials because there's a lot of contractors who want to get into metal.
Yep.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so how do they get into it then? Once they've made all these decisions and kind of found their differentiator, what are some of your tips or advice for financing?
Yeah, so Cidan, I mean, when you look at the Cidan, we're an OEM, right? Where we are owned by our factory in Sweden, and we manufacture all the machines in Sweden. We also own Forstner or Cidan Machinery Austria, and then we also own Tolman. We aren't big enough where we are a bank though, so we don't do in-house financing, right? But we do partner with people to do financing. We partner with Michelle Sherman at Apex Capital. She's really good. And I think this is also a competitive advantage for companies, is to find the right financer for equipment or for their capital purchases and even their material and everything. Get somebody who, there's a lot of slimy people out there in financing. There's a lot of people who try to grease the tracks, give kickbacks to other people. Cidan does none of that. It's a hard stance we have. And the key is getting somebody who's going to help the customer. We're not in the business of financing. You're in the business of growing your company, helping your customers. The financing side is a critical aspect to that. When you look at somebody who, like Michelle, who can go through and she can finance trucks for you, she can finance equipment for you, but she can also say, look, I'm not your best route here with this scenario. This is where you need to pull from your LOC, your line of credit. This is where you need to go to your bank or, possibly go get another investor and to help you with this. Give you that consultative advice there. I will say, we get the question or we get the statement, I'm going to use my line of credit to buy this piece of equipment. I don't try to tell anybody what to do with their finances on their company. Using your line of credit to buy a piece of equipment isn't always the best idea. With the cycles of business, you never know when you're going to get strung out by contractors or, get in a tight situation. Look into financing, whether that's through Michelle or, there's plenty of people out there who can help with that. The big banks even have equipment financing departments. I would recommend talking to them. There is a big tax incentive for buying equipment, Section 179. I'm sure a lot of people on the call know about that because of buying trucks and whatnot, but it's a big bonus depreciation that the government currently allows. Investors, I'm a believer that, equity's everything. Try to keep it. But that's all also your own business directive and, where you are currently with all that.
And along with what you're talking about there too, I mean, working with your accountant, your tax accountant, I mean, kind of bringing, and I would also say, talk to, folks like your OEMs to talk to you. I mean, ask, there's just such an opportunity here for the networking and everyone wants to help people to figure that out. So if you get approached by someone who feels a little slimy, I would not hesitate to advise people to reach out to your friends, right? Reach out to the industry.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And that's another great point, is reach out to your friends. One thing I've noticed over the last, let's say, 5 years of the industry, and it could be my own maturity through getting involved more in the industry, but I've tried to put more people in contact with people who don't compete, right? So a guy in good customers in Oregon met with one of my good customers in Columbus, Ohio. They went to each other's facilities, right? And kind of picked the best practices and learn from them. And I think that is, can be so valuable.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of a sidebar there.
It's so important. And I'm just going to say on our directory on Metal Coffee Shop under the R Club, you can see contractors out there who are doing metal. And so that's the place to network, or with your local association or through the Metal Construction Association. Those are, and I think actually that's our next slide. I'm probably getting ahead of myself.
Email me and I can set you up with plenty of people who would help.
Yeah, I mean, Chandler's been networking me with all kinds of folks. And so let's talk about that a little bit. Industry support. Metal MCA stands for Metal Construction Association. So Chandler, you are so active in that. These are the type of associations that can help people who are looking to expand or start.
Yeah, it really can. So MCA has benefited me within the industry quite a bit, just based on my let's say my 360 knowledge of the industry. There's still a whole lot that I don't know, but I at least know what people are referring to when they start talking about some of the codes and standards and and some of the debated topics within the metal industry world or metal construction world. MCA provides white papers, they provide different guidelines, different training courses. They help push different codes and standards. They sponsor the research in the different codes and standards to make sure that metal construction is on a good platform when you guys are when we have different issues come up. It's great continuous education, and you're going to learn who is who with suppliers, which I think is key. We talk about accessories, supplier wise, the equipment. What I tell our support team, our service team is, hey guys, we got to keep the equipment going, because if that equipment stops going, that company stops going. So we need to make sure we keep the focus for them, especially when they're a mom and pop shop. Some other industry support for people who are new to metal roofing, or people who aren't new and very experienced, but they say, hey, I'm trying to grow my business. I need somebody to come on who doesn't, I don't have the pool of the metal industry within my area. I got to bring on somebody green. University of Wisconsin has a metal roofing course taught by Rob Haddock from S5. It's excellent. We send people every single year now. I've been myself. It's not going to dive into crazy detail, but they're going to talk about hydrostatic movement of the water up roofs, up slope on roofs. They're going to talk about expansion. They're going to talk about the history of metal roofs and kind of how we are where we are today. It's very good. There's also a lot of other people out there who are active. I think MetalTalk is great. Metal Coffee Shop is great. They're making a great splash in the industry, and we're super excited to be involved with them. New Tech Machinery has developed a great blog over the years where they have a lot of good information on there. And then I think they do webinars and continuous education, but True Metal Supply out of Knoxville, Tennessee, they do some good stuff on educating their customers and also posting it online. Two young guys who branched off on their own, and they really have a bright future ahead of them. I'd recommend watching them too. True Metal Supply out of Knoxville, Tennessee. True
Metal Supply. I was just getting ready to write it down myself because I love that stuff. And we have to, MetalCon is such a great show that is in October, and that is a place you can go and really get the support, see all the machines. It's really fun, and get a lot of information from all the suppliers.
Yeah, you're going to see all different types of companies there in the metal construction industry. You're going to see the ag and pole barn people. If you're wanting to expand in that market, for the person who asked about the R panel roll former, that's a great place to go to learn all that, to see what it's going to take investment wise and also marketing wise to expand laterally into that market. And real quick on that, MetalCon's a great platform if you do start a sheet metal shop to see which kind of lateral market niches you can start to go after. Sheet metal shop, like we're talking about in roofing, is going to be kind of right in the middle. And then you can go through the high-end architectural wall panel stuff and expand your business that way. Or you can go, hey, I'm in a more rural area. I see a lot of opportunity to do pole barns. I mean, we have people who are selling, you can configure a big barn online and you can order it and it shows up at your door.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy, but a lot of different areas you can expand into.
It is so crazy. And so I would say, and thank you, Chandler, because we do have so many directories on Metal Coffee Shop information. We're having all these multimedia opportunities for learning. So, and we will always connect. We'll get you connected to Chandler. That's really kind of that's how it all comes together. It's when we all work together. And I want to say we had a great comment here from Chris Barr, and he said we purchased a Cidan FX41 CNC folder 2 years ago, and it has been great. Helped us be much more efficient in making our own trims, coping, and fascia, and reduce direct costs. And then he finished that up with training and setup was really easy. So reaching out.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, reaching out to your OEMs, reaching out to Cidan, and really asking those questions. You can see here, it makes a difference in your business, and it's really what it's all about. So okay, partnerships with your suppliers, because we're almost out of time. I can't believe it. It's been so great. So
and I've seen a number of different questions pop through that are really intriguing. I'd love to talk more about. Maybe we can circle back with another webinar later.
Yes, we can.
Yeah. So sorry if I didn't get to all your questions yet, but I'll talk on this real quick. I think some key partnerships, obviously your equipment, we love that. One of our visions is being the one-stop partner. We work hard for that. Part of that is service. I'm investing a ton of money and time into service because we want to get to the point where we're calling our customers and saying, hey, what can we help you with on the service side, whether that's safety training, whether that's more, application training. But give us feedback on, what you guys need. Our sales staff, we try to, we push hard for consultative selling. And, as you expand your metal shop, what you're doing today isn't going to work tomorrow, right? Or it's going to work, but it's not going to be the most efficient way, right? Because you're going to have more throughput, right? That shear no longer is the right way to process your cutting because your volume's so high, it makes more sense to buy coil, right? And that's where going to things like MetalCon, participating in the MCA really help out. There's, I brought up Drexel earlier. Drexel is a great company. They're going to help you a lot. But they primarily do a lot of sheets. They do pup coils for standing seam and everything, but they do a lot of sheets. So over time, or if you want to get into the R panel business, you got to develop another relationship with another supplier. It's not their niche for the wide coverage, PBR or R panel roll former coils. We all know partnerships are key and relationships are key in all this. The other thing I'll say is, as your team is learning, what I kind of challenge some of our team to do is, hey, it's your job to build relationships with our suppliers, because at some point in time, you're going to need help and they're going to have to bail you out or give you advice. And so please, try to build those relationships, try to be a good partner to them so that when, you do say, hey, I'm in a pickle here. I know this is, I know I dropped the ball, but I need you to bail me out. They're going to come to bat for you and bail you out.
That's what this whole industry is about. I mean, that's what, and if you don't have those relationships, you will be kind of just out there on your own island. So building these relationships, whether it was equipment, your sheet metal, coil, and then we're going to talk more on our next Metal Talk about technology. So we're going to save that for the next one. But I do know, Chandler, you have such amazing software and technology with your machines. We also are going to have Eagle View on to talk about their technology and how that's changing the metal industry. So just great. And if we did miss any questions, we have the chat. Chandler and his team will get back to you, but you can always ask more questions, and we're going to be doing more of this. So we're going to be really talking about it. This has been phenomenal today, Chandler. Such great engagement from our audience. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing all your wisdom.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. And I hope I had some value to the attendees, and yeah, look forward to coming back and diving into some of those questions, because I saw a few come across that were pretty, I'd like to talk about a little more in
detail. We'll be doing more. I love it. And I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for being on today. This will be available within 24 hours on demand. Please share it with all of your friends and family. Let them know what's happening with sheet metal shops. And a month from now, we will have Eagle View here talking about the technology of metal roofing and siding, walls, you name it, and how that's all coming together with their programs and the Sherwin-Williams Passport program. So we will see you all next time on Metal Talk. Thank you so much and have a great day.